This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion.
A bunch of disparate thoughts on my mind today. At least to you, they might seem disparate. They might seem like they're not connected. My objective in this podcast is to try to connect them, or at least to let you see the thread. Because you see, for me, it's about the data. The data is reality. The narrative is the narrative. And there's a lot of people out there on a lot of platforms pushing a lot of narratives. There's often not any basis for those narratives. But they push them nonetheless because they want power. It's all about power or money, or both. Let me jump right into the deep end with a controversial example. Some people will immediately get itchy. But the problem is, if you're one of those people that immediately gets itchy, the data is on my side. And it's only going to take you a 2-second Google search or a 2-second Twitter search to find out that what I'm saying is accurate. Just about a year ago, Orange Man Bad, otherwise known as Donald Trump, was touting a cure or a symptom reliever or some type of therapy for COVID called hydroxychloroquine. He talked about it a lot. I mean, a whole ton. I always assumed as a casual observer that Trump was no expert on hydroxychloroquine. I assumed he sat in on meetings and all kinds of smart people brought it up. That was my assumption. Now, of course, that was not how it was positioned in the media. In the media, it was positioned as crazy orange man screaming about hydroxychloroquine, and all the scientists said, no, you can't do this, including one Dr. Fauci. A lot of people got banned on the internet for talking about it. Things changed 1 year later. Now, the studies have come out, and as a therapy for some people with severe cases, it absolutely provides relief. In fact, it provides life. That's not Michael Covel touting a Trump theory or a Trump whatever. That's just the data. Now, when something like that happens, if you're thinking, if you're not just partisan, if you're not just political, if you're thinking, you got to say to yourself, what happened to get to that point? Well, that's where the good Dr. Fauci emails are helping all of us to understand. Because you see, something like this went down not because Fauci was necessarily a bad guy or an evil guy. He could be. The case is yet to be decided, in my humble opinion. But there was a reason why people did not want a therapy out there that Trump was touting. Trump would get credit for it. He'd get political credit for it. It would have helped him to win an election. That's one issue. The second issue, there's Big Pharma. And Big Pharma wanted to provide other solutions that I understand as of today have made many people billionaires. That's right. You don't get to give a vaccine to everybody around the world without a few people making a shitload of money. What's the point? If you're a rabid partisan, your underwear is already tied in knots. You're screaming something about Trump. You're cussing me out. That's not the point. The point is to think. The point is to think like the scientific method, to operate like the scientific method, which means to have an open discussion, an honest discussion. And that's not really possible in the modern age of 2021 because we do have censorship. We do have cancel culture. I would have never talked about this issue unless it was safe to talk about it, because now it's safe to talk about it. Now people are talking about it. Lots of people are talking about it. The data always tells a different story in the modern age. There are way too many people working their angle, working for a profit, trying to steer you to their direction with one objective in mind, to get money from you or to keep their place in power in the so-called democracy. That's what's going on. Is it any different than the buy and hold crowd versus the trend following crowd? The buy and hold crowd, and you can see this across my books, you can see this across this podcast, the buy and hold crowd loves to rip trend following. says trend following is following the chicken entrails or mysticism or crystal balls. Clearly it's not. Trend following is math. It's expectation. It's statistics. It's pretty straightforward. I know liberals and conservatives who both employ trend following. So at its foundation, people that know what trend following is, regardless of partisan stripe. They get it. But the narrative builders out there, the people that control the vast majority of assets, they don't want you to know about an alternative to buy and hold. They make too much money off milking you. You see the connection to hydroxychloroquine? Hydroxychloroquine, for all intents and purposes, for my discussion here, my hypothetical discussion, is trend following. It was an alternative to Big Pharma. Big Pharma, once the pandemic hit, had other plans than a therapy that had been around for a long time that was inexpensive. And someone like Dr. Fauci knew that. Again, you have to decide whether this makes them bad people or just profiteers. But a lot of people died off this bad advice. The bad advice that you could not use this particular therapy. I mean, seriously, a lot of people died. And they died because we were not allowed to think. We were not allowed to study. We were not allowed to ask questions. We were not allowed to examine, to prod, to poke, to check under the hood. We just had to accept that a bunch of gatekeepers, a bunch of bureaucrats were accurate. Again, it's the same thing with buy and hold versus trend following. You just have to accept that the gatekeepers who manage your assets know what they're talking about, have your best of intentions at their heart. Of course they don't. They're out to make a buck. You're in a financial matrix, and all you are to the system is a number that they can hopefully decrease and take the value of your number over to their side of the ledger and increase their number. That's the game. That's it. It's always been that's it. What I try to do in my life is stay calm about all this. I have some friends, and I have to admit, I've gotten worked up in the past. I'm sure I can go back and listen to some of these old podcast episodes of mine, and I can get worked up. I can still get worked up with the best of them. But the system is too big, and the system itself is too dishonest, with too many dishonest players. So the system of life, economics, politics, sociology, anthropology, how you fit into that, you have to have a plan that allows you to navigate and not let yourself go nuts. This Zen mindset, right? Go with the flow, so to speak. I'm not telling you to not be outraged when the so-called pandemic doctor has thousands of his emails released that says he was not exactly telling the truth. Be outraged, but don't be surprised. Do you remember that little war that America was in the 1960s and the early 1970s? The one in Southeast Asia? America got into that war under false pretenses, something called the Gulf of Tonkin incident. We being America, made up a reason to go to war. And as I've had another guest on this podcast say, at that same time in 1965, the United States CIA helped to kill 1 million people in Indonesia. How many of you knew that? I sure as hell did not. Again, it's all about narratives. Narratives that allow those few people in power to keep their power, satiate the masses, convince the masses that where you are going is right. The truth is not important. In fact, the goal is to amplify the fiction, hide the truth. Amplify the fiction, hide the truth. A friend sent me that in a message the other day. Amplify the fiction, hide the truth. I love that. It's everything I'm talking about right now. So the objective for you is to find the hidden truth while at the same time understanding that most everything that's being thrown at you is an amplification of fiction, otherwise known as fucking bullshit. You know the stuff they throw at the wall? Just imagine a politician in DC reaching into his pants and pulling out shit and throwing it at you. That's essentially what's been going on for a long time. See, there's me getting a little bit worked up. I got to calm myself down. But it's not only the politicians reaching in their pants and throwing shit at you. Like I said, it's the financial advisors. How does that manifest itself? Confusion. I get emails all the time. People asking me questions. How to do XYZ with trading. Here's a typical email that I receive. I'm doing not great with my trading strategy. I don't understand my entries or exits. My portfolio management is off. I need to understand money management better. Then I ask them, what is your exact strategy and what time frame? If I had to take an average answer of what it is, their time frame is either minute bars or hourly bars, day trading bullshit. And their strategy usually involves something to the effect of support and resistance, candlesticks, and some other crap that I've already forgotten. That's what the average person is doing. So not only do they have that financial advisor telling them, hey, stick with buy and hold, they've got all these other voices out there saying support and resistance, candlesticks, and all this other shit that is not going to help you. Because all that stuff is trying to do is to predict. And prediction is crap. Prediction is not trend following. You got to read between the lines when I go off on one of these monologues. The idea is to think. The idea is to look at examples in society and find a better way. What's a way that you can find a good system, to find some sense of control? Of course, you can't control your environment. You can control you. So if you can control you, that's a way you can control the environment. We don't have enough conversations like this. In the era of cancel culture, in the era of banning people, in the era of turning people off, in the era of screaming ad hominem at people, calling everyone names, there's not much opportunity. There's just not much opportunity to converse, to have a nice conversation. That's why I love doing my podcast. I try every time on my podcast to have an honest and open conversation. Not until this year have I started to get guests that are woke, people that have a political agenda. I mean, often I talk to academics, and academics could probably have left-wing perspectives, but they come on my show and they educate me to some issue they've studied their whole life that's not political. However, I'm starting to notice that's changing. You'll probably never really hear it on this show. I might not even air it, or I will censor it, because I don't want to have episodes where someone comes on and it's an infomercial and they're unchallenged. The other day, I received an offer for a guest, a very smart economist, an economist who supports the idea of a large welfare state. Fair enough. I wrote back to the agent, so to speak, and I said, look, that's great. It kind of goes against my personal politics, my personal economics. Will this guest allow himself to be challenged? I'm not going to do an infomercial for his perspective. Now, we'll see. I've not heard back yet as to whether or not that episode will happen. But that's my thinking. If you want to bring something on controversial, expect pushback. Expect the devil's advocate. But back to the top, where I started today. All of these things thread together. It's a thinking. How do you think? Or do you think? Do you just trust? I'm not exactly a trust guy. Trust but verify, as Mr. Reagan said about Mr. Gorbachev. That's a brilliant way to look at life. Simple, easy. Trust but verify. Today, too many people trust, no verify. I'll give you a simple example on the way out of that. I just heard about this one. Now, I think we all know that there was a pipeline in America that was shut down by hackers recently. And those hackers were paid a ransom in Bitcoin. Then, magically, the oil started flowing again. Now we find out that the FBI was able to go to one of these exchanges, perhaps Coinbase. Somebody can fact check me on that. But the FBI went to one of these crypto exchanges and recovered the Bitcoin. So the hackers were smart enough to shut the oil down in America. They were smart enough to get crypto sent to them, but they were dumb enough to send that crypto to an exchange where the FBI could recover it and they could not keep the money. I'm not even going to tell you what I think about that. I'll let you think about it. Because again, as I've said from the top, all of these things thread together. How do you think? Are you a skeptic? Do you like data? Do you like narratives? What's your deal? Do you have a deal? Do you really believe now that the FBI recovered the Bitcoin? Do you believe there ever were hackers? We sure as hell don't know, do we? And that is the life of a skeptic. I don't need to fill the narrative in. I already know there's enough information that causes me to question the official narrative. And if there's enough information for me to question the official narrative, then why the hell do I have to agree with it? And if I don't agree with it, that doesn't mean I necessarily have to go scream about it, but it's a better place to be if you can find yourself in this mindset of questioning. Don't just sit there like a lapdog and take a fire hose to the mouth of that amplified fiction. Find the hidden truth. That's the goal. It's always been the goal. It's my goal. It sure as hell should be your goal.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.